Already gonna be a call to Coon because you agree with Pastor Anthony.
Oh yeah. Hey man,
Philip Mitchell.
It is
Philip
what
Anthony
it is.
Mitchell.
You can call me whatever. I agree with him 100%.
Well, the Bible tells us to obey authority. So,
and I think a lot of part of that is just people don't take accountability. I mean,
you have to obey authority.
It's like, does some people do some wrong things that wear that badge? Yeah.
I don't think he should have apologized for preaching the truth, though.
Yeah, no.
That was crazy.
What you think about it? You think he shouldn't have?
No. Why would you? You think Jesus apologized for preaching? No.
He shouldn't apologize.
That's the only. I like Philip Anthony Mitchell a lot, but the only thing that I did not like was him folding and apologizing.
Yeah,
because that shows me that's publicity. What is it? What's the people who handle all the issues in the press?
Your publicist.
Publicist.
Yeah.
That wasn't like that. Was just like, okay, we put on the fire. No, I would have doubled down. I would say, bro, listen, you have to obey authority. I'm not saying what these unarmed killings were wrong or right. I'm not saying they're right. They're all wrong. Like every person that got shot unlawfully or whatever from the cops. Yeah, it's wrong.
Yeah, it's wrong.
But I mean, and a lot of them did obey the cops. But what he was saying was you should always obey authority.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes,
But even if you, because you never know, even if you obey, you have a chance of living.
Yeah.
If you disobey, your chance of living is completely gone.
Yeah.
That's all he was saying.
Yeah. And I
think
he
never sided with the cops and said the cops are right. Yeah, y'all tripping. Y'all just, well, you gotta understand, people who, like him, people were looking for stuff to come after him. Because if everybody who is, because you notice most of the pastors who aren't preaching true doctrine, the only ones that go after them is the podcast channel who calls out false doctrine.
Yeah.
But Philip Anthony Mitchell got called out by lukewarm Christians and the celebrity Christians who aren't really living a Christian lifestyle.
Yeah, they didn't.
They were just hopping on the bandwagon.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a society where people don't want to take accountability. They don't want to take accountability for their actions. People going chop my head off of this when I say this, but if I'm in this field, so I can say this. So there's a lot of situations that people deem, unjustified. They're not, they're not unjustified. And you just got to look at it from a standpoint to understand that, you got to take your emotion out of it and, think about things.
Well, I wouldn't know because I'm not a cop, so I can't.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but also when I say, but
a lot of the videos that people marched on was clearly on tape. That was
a lot of them, you can say, but like people don't want to, take accountability for the sense of like what they're doing, and it's like, am I saying that you committing a crime, you should just go in and get, something, you should get shot or something bad should happen to you? No, but it goes back to, we got to stop putting ourselves in these positions, man. Yeah. Like, don't put yourself in a position to be, and then I know some people are going to say, well, some people didn't put themselves in that position. They haven't. But that doesn't mean that we're just not going to respect authority and we're just not going, we're just going to wild out and do whatever.
There's a lot of, all the ones that were going viral, 99% of those was unjustified.
Yeah, I mean,
but you've probably seen more justified things that's not viral.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen more justified things,
but those don't go viral. Okay, that was justified. But the unjustified ones is what people build awareness.
Yeah, this they're gonna cut my head off for this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. But the most viral or incident that recently happened, George Floyd. Now. People say,
that was still unjustified. Well, even if it was breaking the law, but you still didn't have to kill him.
So I'm gonna say this, and people gonna get mad at me for saying this. The officer, he shouldn't have got charged with first-degree murder because the knee on his neck didn't kill him. That wasn't the only thing that killed him. That contributed to killing him.
So he would have been alive if the dude didn't put his knee on his neck.
Nah, he wouldn't have.
He would have lived another.
He might have, but honestly, he was overdosing, and people didn't know that he was overdosing.
He could have.
I'm telling you, man. I'm not saying what the cop did was right. What he did was 100% wrong.
He handled the situation poorly.
He what he did, force. What he did in that level of force definitely, contributed to him dying. But I don't think he should have got charged with first degree murder, because first degree murder is, I am, you know, what I'm doing is 100% killing you. You know, is what I did. You know, the only thing that I did, like shooting you. You can't say I charge you. You can't charge me with first, you know what I mean, manslaughter, because you know, that's just, if I'm pointing a gun and just shooting you, that's murder. People just gotta read the laws, man. Just like people don't read the laws, just like people don't read the Bible, man. And I ain't gonna go too deep into it, but you know, if anybody want to know
what about the lady who got shot in her house?
Which one?
She had the boiling water, and the cops were in there.
They shouldn't have shot her.
Yeah, that was messed up.
They shouldn't have shot her. They. Did
you hop on the bandwagon? It was like it was demons.
Nah, man. When I looked at that situation, I was like, bro,
probably wasn't demons.
What is going on?
She said the name of Jesus and she got shot.
Yeah,
I don't think that's what it was.
Yeah, that was bad tactics on the police officers. That was very bad tactics. You know,
she wasn't gonna throw the boiling water on you.
You know, and I think incidents. The media definitely make things worse than what it is. They got
to. It's their job.
Yeah, I mean they're out here really thinking, they're out here really making black people feel like the police are just hunting them down and killing them. You know, if you look up the statistics of how many encounters police officers have with just individuals, and looking at how many encounters that ends up in somebody dying, it's not even close.
Nope.
You know, so it's like people think that, you know, I gotta stop by the police. I ain't gonna survive this.
Fake news.
You know, I mean, some of it is fake news, man. You know, you gotta acknowledge it, man. You know, but it is what it is, man. That's a conversation for another day. You know, I'm gonna hold that one. You know, break it down a little deeper. You know,
how this gonna tie into religion?
I'm gonna make it tie into religion, man. You know,
this ain't a political podcast.
Nah, it ain't. It ain't. We ain't talking politics. You know. The only thing we talking about is Jesus.
Only reason we brought it up is because of Pastor Anthony Mitchell.
Yeah, he taking a lot of heat for it, man. You know, it is what it is. You know, he'll bounce back. You know, he'll continue to preach.
He's still got a large following.
You know, just like you said, pastors make mistakes. He made a mistake of apologizing. He shouldn't apologize.